Why is it that 99% of highly capable six-figure earners stay completely stuck in their financial lives? I'll tell you why. It's because they rely on these exhausting grand gestures instead of the relentless compounding of microhabits. So today, we're going to decode the exact mechanics of how we get trapped, and more importantly, exactly how you can break free. You know, we constantly convince ourselves that to achieve real financial freedom, we need these massive, sweeping overhauls overnight, right? We just rely on fleeting motivation. But here's the thing, grand gestures have a staggeringly high failure rate because they depend entirely on sheer willpower. True freedom? That's built on microhabits. We're talking about small, automated, environment-driven actions that just compound exponentially over time. All right, here is the exact financial freedom blueprint we're going to unlock together today. First, we'll expose the grand gesture trap. Then we'll deconstruct your default habits, design your wealth environment, explore the 1% advantage, and finally, piece together your financial freedom blueprint. Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1. The grand gesture trap and breaking those golden handcuffs. So to actually build a financial runway, we first have to understand the psychological traps that keep high earners completely paralyzed. Take Sarah, for example. She's this brilliant marketing executive, earning a really strong six-figure salary. But you know that quiet Sunday night dread? She felt that constantly. She had built this absolutely beautiful life, but it had basically morphed into a set of golden handcuffs. Her career trajectory felt less like a path she chose and more like a conveyor belt she couldn't step off without risking everything. She was basically trading her autonomy for security on autopilot, totally relying on the myth of willpower to save her.
And then there's David, a super talented engineer who meticulously budgeted for his mortgage, yet he still felt perpetually broke. Well, when we actually analyzed his habits, his hard-earned resources were just unconsciously draining away. We're talking 35% on daily takeouts, 40% on impulsive online purchases, and 25% on forgotten subscriptions. You know, like that streaming service you swear you'll watch but haven't touched since 2021. The crazy thing is, this isn't some sort of moral failing on his part. It's systemic budget stress caused by invisible, everyday drains. It's literally death by 1,000 paper cuts.
All right, let's move to part 2 and deconstruct your default habits. Let's see how this all builds, because our unconscious reactions completely govern our financial trajectory. It all comes down to the universal habit loop. Just imagine you have a really stressful workday. Boom, that's your cue. That cue creates an intense craving for some kind of relief. So what's your unconscious response? Maybe it's impulsive online shopping. And the reward? A temporary distraction. It feels good for a minute. But listen, without identifying this exact loop in your own life, you're just going to stay stuck on autopilot, fighting a brutal, losing battle against yourself.
Now, a massive part of this loop is dictated by what we call friction. Friction is simply the mental or physical resistance standing between you and your desired financial action. We really need to stop blaming a lack of discipline and start analyzing our systemic blockers. I mean, think about it. If your budgeting app takes 6 clicks and a password just to open, that is high friction and it's going to fail every single time. Which brings us to Section 3, design your wealth environment.
Because true, lasting change, that comes from strategically designing your environment, not from constantly doing battle with your own willpower. The contrast is really clear here. A high-friction environment requires you to dig through a messy phone just to find your savings app, or sitting down to manually type out your budget at the end of an exhausting day. No one wants to do that. But a low-friction environment? Your savings are automated instantly, and maybe you leave a finance book sitting right on your pillow. You absolutely must make good habits incredibly easy and bad habits incredibly difficult.
If you take away nothing else, burn this concept into your mind. Willpower fatigues. Your environment doesn't. Your personal reserve of willpower is essentially like a battery that just drains throughout the day. Constantly battling temptation through sheer grit is totally unsustainable and, frankly, it leads to inevitable regression. If you leave tempting online marketplaces bookmarked right on your browser, your exhausted brain is eventually going to click them. You have to design your world to define your future.
Let's look at Section 4, the 1% advantage. Now, what's really interesting is how this shows exactly why we need to abandon the grand gesture entirely. Relying on sporadic grand gestures, like deciding to save a huge chunk of money once and then doing absolutely nothing for months, it just leads to totally inconsistent, spiky results. But the true path? That's built on small, relentless micro-habits that curve upward exponentially. Setting up a daily automated transfer of just $5 might seem totally invisible at first, but it compounds into unstoppable momentum.
So, how do we actually get those micro-habits started? You implement the 2-minute rule. Procrastination is actually a highly sophisticated psychological response to overwhelming complexity. But here's the trick. Your brain rarely resists something that feels insignificant. So, if a new financial habit takes less than 2 minutes, like quickly checking your bank balance or just opening an investment app, do it immediately. This completely eradicates the friction of starting and destroys choice fatigue. And to ensure those habits actually survive the test of time, you absolutely must eliminate manual effort. Doing things manually relies entirely on your memory and willpower, which basically guarantees inconsistency and budget stress. On the flip side, an automated system relies on set-it-and-forget-it technology. The result? Relentless compounding and actual freedom. Automation delegates consistency to your systems, removing human error entirely. Remember this, systems will always beat motivation. All right, Section 5, let's build your financial freedom blueprint.
Okay, now we integrate everything into your master plan, starting with the productivity power stack. You've got to reclaim your workday from reactive chaos. First, protect your first morning hour for high-leverage strategic work. Second, link any new habits to your existing routines. Next, ruthlessly defer or eliminate low-value tasks. Turn off all those non-essential notifications on your phone. And finally, always plan your top priority for tomorrow tonight. This kills decision fatigue before you even wake up.
So the crucial point here is applying all that reclaimed energy directly to your wealth wiring. These are your absolute, non-negotiable financial baselines. Number 1, observe your past spending without judgment. Number 2, automate your savings transfers instantly on payday. 3, pre-schedule your investments into low-cost index funds. 4, attack your smallest debt balance first. This gives you the incredible psychological momentum of the debt snowball. And finally, implement a strict never-again policy for your single most destructive financial habit.
We've seen exactly why those exhausting grand gestures fail and how small, structured environments and automation can silently build fortunes. The blueprint is right here in your hands. But you know what? It requires action, not just observation. You have to stop waiting for some grand gesture to come along and save you. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe to this explainer so we can keep refining your systems together. And I want to leave you with one final thought, a real command actually. Look at your life right now. What is the single micro habit you will automate today? Decide on it, set it up, and let the compounding begin.